Thanks everybody for being here today, and we did pretty well on the council meeting. I hope people didn't have to wait too long. I'm pleased to such a great turnout of the media, but also pleased to be joined by so many community leaders and particularly members of council who are here. Councilmember Christie and Cohen and Noriega and Burks, if there's other council members, Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez, of course. And I'm not going to name everybody up here because we have a huge support group today. We already know that Houston is an international city of trade and commerce, of tourism and culture. Over 100 different languages are spoken in our neighborhoods, and almost 500,000 people live in the greater Houston area who were born in some other part of the world. Our global profile is one of Houston's strengths. We are the only Texas city on the Global Cities Index, and our global profile is one of the reasons that we have fared better than most other major U.S. cities in the difficult economy we've navigated through over the last few years. You know, go to the Galleria, you can see people shopping from all over the world. Go to our neighborhoods and you could spend the day speaking Vietnamese or Korean and of course Spanish. But this isn't about just doing something that helps us connect to people from around the world, and it's not just about connecting to people who choose to live here. It is about making sure that access to critical city services is available to everyone who might need those services. We know that for Houston, more than $274 billion is generated each year in foreign trade. We have more than 90 foreign consulates, 22 foreign banks, more than 790 foreign-owned firms, and more than 400 companies with branches in 129 other nations. We have immigrants, we have expats who are foreign nationals who are working for the companies that are here, and we have refugees. And those different populations have different needs. We are now, today, joining a number of other U.S. cities that have international connections, and those cities are New York, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Seattle, Oakland, and Minneapolis in the launch of the City of Houston's first language access plan. The task is somewhat challenging, but the goal is very simple: to offer the most vital information in the 5 most needed languages in Houston other than English. Let me tell you what it's not. It's not about going across the city of Houston and putting signs in different languages. It's not about going across the city of Houston and creating a number of different languages in which we are going to operate everything we do. The language of business in Houston is and will remain English. This is about making sure that the different populations here who have needed services from the city or need critical emergency information have the access to that information. And it's not the most common languages, it is the most needed languages. We already translate almost everything that we do as a city into Spanish. And with the large population of Spanish speakers here, that's critical. We have long needed, under the Justice Department requirements, to print our ballots in Vietnamese and in certain communities in Mandarin. But there are many other languages spoken and many other communities of need. What would be a community that are native word speakers of a different language that might not need to have items translated? We have a large South Asian population, people from India and Pakistan, various languages spoken. Hindi would be a large language population group, but many of those native speakers also grow up learning English. And it is not a population that particularly needs items translated. So this is about not the most spoken languages, but the most needed languages. And it is not about translating everything, it is about translating critical information. We're going to take 6 months, starting today, to develop a process for making language access a reality in Houston. Departments will begin by identifying a point of contact to serve as their language coordinator, and they will have, again, this 6 months to submit their own language access plan using criteria I provide. We're going to start with the Department of Neighborhoods and my office. The Department of Neighborhoods being the department that has the most intimate contact with communities across the city. We're going to work with the international community. We're going to work with some of our academic partners in pulling this together. Again, to target the 5 most needed languages in Houston. I already have an Office of International Communities within the Department of Neighborhoods. That office is headed by Mr. Terrence O'Neill, and he will be tasked with bringing this project forward. What kind of information would we assume that we're going to need to translate? Interestingly enough, something that we've already talked about for people from the United States who come to Houston. We have, since the last hurricane hit Houston, more than 1 million new residents have moved into this area, many of whom have never experienced a hurricane. It can be frightening, and we're working hard to get that information out to American English speakers. What if you came from some other part of the world, you've never experienced a hurricane, and the information is not available to you in a language that you can understand? That's the kind of critical information we're talking about. Hurricane preparedness, or simple information, how to pay a traffic ticket, how to navigate the municipal court system. What kind of information should you expect to provide to the police if you need to report an incident? Vital information to make it easier for those who live here to connect to the services they need. The 6-month project to identify that vital information and to begin the work of translating into the most critical languages is not the end of the process, it's actually the beginning of the process. Houston is going to continue to be a great international city, and Houston is going to continue to grow in terms of presence of foreign-born citizens, immigrants, expats, refugees, who help contribute to the economic vitality of this area. I anticipate that this process will grow over time as we discover new population groups that need this kind of help, as we discover new ways to make city services more accessible. And of course, we want to use technology to the best of our ability to make this happen. And one of the things that is going to help us in this project is that today, so much information is available electronically. And once we get these items, these critical documents, this information translated, it's much easier to make the connections into communities. In a way, it's a little sad that we don't always have to do it person to person, but it's much more effective and can have much broader reach if we make best use of the technology that we have available. I'm going to sign the executive order, and I'm going to ask Mr. O'Neill if he would come forward and acknowledge anything that I have missed in this.